Hi everyone, welcome to the recap. Very first episode. What is the recap about? The recap is basically everything leading up to the events of the next story. Anything you want to know about Dominulus, the world of Dominulus, and the magic, the characters, the NPCs, all that type of thing. Tonight, we're going to start with the world of Dominulus. What is the world of Dominulus? It's a concept and a realm that I came up with, and it has high magic, heroes, villains, creatures, all the stuff of Dungeons and Dragons, fantasy setting, technology, space, all those type of things. And it all started with an idea. And just like all DMs, they create their own ideas and events leading up to everything in the story. In Dominulus, there is high magic, and that magic is the source of power. Whether you're a wizard, whether you're a sorcerer, whether you're playing a magic-based character, it all depends on how you make your character, and that character is developed and then transformed into my world. Now, every DM has different homebrew worlds and stories and whatnot. Dominulus is what separates Dominulus apart from everyone else. Well, we know that fantasy is fantasy, right? Well, not really. You have a mix of things in a story. A mix of events leading up to challenges, consequences, etc. Now, the thing that I invented, that I really not invented, well, I came up with in my story, anthology. I've always wanted to do an anthology series, and this is the world of Dominulus, where you have the characters start off in one side of the realm. Their story, they can be villains, they could be heroes, they could be whatever their hearts desire. And, excuse me, I have something in my eye. When that occurs, it opens up more story, more events, more consequences, etc. And the anthology for me is great because you have the main campaign and the main story, and then you go off in different sides of the world, different events, their story. The heroes have a very unique story. You're a hero, you save the world, you save the princess, you save people around you. But you have to remember that everyone has a tale to tell. And I love anthologies because you have the main arc, and then you swing onto something very different. And that's what I love to do, and that's what Dominulus is about. Dominulus is the idea of high intense magic and heroes and villains and so forth, but then it branches off to something different. Someone else. It might be a farmer, it might be a warrior, it might be a princess in a tower, her story and her events, how she feels differently in the world. And that's what I want to portray in the streams, and hopefully you guys will enjoy the stories I have out for you. The most significant part or location in Dominulus are seven cities. In the west, you have the City of Amazura. Amazura is a spiral tower, and in that tower in the north of the City of Amazura, they're all humans, and in the south and in the remaining portions of the city, it's a massive city, by the way. It's over 10,000 people, multitude of races, but the northern part is mostly humans. And the Amazurian guards, they don't put up with other races coming in to the city. They push them out. That's Amazura. They have tents and different merchants and different locations in other parts of the city. But the northern part of Amazura are all humans. Now, as we go on, this is the western part of Dominulus. you have SilLa and Zendaran, two Elven strongholds. I didn't get into much of the Elven-based story yet, but I will someday, and hopefully we will get deeper into that because I love to do that. I love elves; they're my favorite race in fantasy settings. Anyways, that is the western part of Dominulus. Hey, that's great. Thank you very much for your comment. Yes, check me out on Discord. Go look up Playerole, and we can definitely do that. I'll get you my Discord when the stream's over. I'll get you my Discord. I'll put it up there. Anyways, that is a portion of the West. You have the Elven city of SilLa and Zendaran, and you have Amazura. And then you have south of Amazura, you have the city of Golan. The city of Golan is not as big as Amazura, but they invest in armor, magic armor. They have the best dwarves, the best blacksmiths that they have. They build the best armor, the weapons, and so forth. That's who they have in that region, in that city. Not as big or as vast as the city of Amazura, but Golan can hold its own. The only thing that separates Golan from Amazura is the weapons. Now you have another location, and now this is the western part of Amazura. You have other locations, and in the east, you have where season 2 is currently in right now, is the Town of the Light. The Town of the Light is a small town. You know, the most 10 structures, a pond, you know, there is rock formations around the town. It's not as big as the other cities I mentioned, but it holds its own. Now, we'll discuss that more into more detail, sorry. But in the east, you have that Town of the Light, and then there is a cave nearby that, and that's significant because in season 2, the players went from the City of the Light, they're orphans, to the cave, and they dungeon crawled. Well, again, we'll go into that shortly. Elsewhere, and probably the most significant city or kingdom in Dominulus is Jamorna. And Jamorna is a beautiful city surrounded by vast, lush environment. Creatures, mythical creatures, beautiful agriculture. Now, around that, you have the Dominulus Ocean that splashes up against a light tower. Well, anyways, that's Jamorna. And we'll go into the characters and the NPCs later, in later episodes, but I want to discuss briefly the significance of the cities in Jamorna, in Dominulus. So anyways, that is the cities. You have the Elven stronghold in the west, SilLa, Zendaran, those are 2. The city of Amazura, the Spiral Tower, which I mentioned, 3. And you have the south of Amazura, Golan, 4. And then in the west, in the east, you have 3 more. You have Jamorna, you have the City of the Light, and then the cave. Those are the main locations that the stories so far have been revolving around. Now, let's go back to season 1. In season 1, the idea, I wanted heroes. I wanted heroes with weapons and, you know, powers and abilities. I wanted something epic. And they got it. They got legendary items. They went and they fought really extreme big bads. What do I mean by that? Well, the big bad in season 1 was the Dragon Queen. And the story was based around the Cult of the Red. The Cult of the Red, they followed the Dragon Queen, and they needed to bring her to Dominulus. She was trapped in a different realm. We know the story of Bahamut and Tiamat. So she was caught or trapped in a different realm, and the Cult of the Red wanted her to come to Dominulus. So what did they do? They needed certain artifacts, certain objects to bring her to Dominulus, and that happened. But the heroes didn't know that until it was too late. And when they did, they had an epic battle with the Dragon Queen. I also mixed up a lot of technology. We'll get into that, how I brought that into the story. But in season 1, a buddy of mine, a good friend of mine, he's part of the show, and George Christopher. George Christopher is my best friend, and he and I were discussing plot points, and he said, hey, I always wanted to do a Brotherhood of the Zodiac. I wanted, a Zodiac type of story. And I said, sure, let's do it. And we did. And to give him proper thumbs up, he had a really good idea, and I said, okay, let's do it. So we came up with the Brotherhood of the Zodiac, and each Zodiac symbol had certain abilities, and it was infused with the heroes, and the heroes were bigger than life. I wanted something powerful. I didn't want something small. If you would play that type of game in a con, they would be like, oh my gosh, these characters are OP. Exactly, because that's what I wanted. I wanted OP characters. I wanted power, strength, because they were going up against a god. So they needed that power. And I also created or constructed these swords, the dragon swords. And these swords, there were 5. They had to find, and then those swords needed to be powerful enough to go up against a Dragon Queen. While they were hunting for the swords, meanwhile, I also had a side story. And I like to do that a lot. I like to branch off. Remember, as I said at the beginning of the video, I wanted an anthology series. And I love how campaigns can go, and you have this epic story, and you're going and you're traversing through the land, and you pull your sword out, and you have epic battles and so forth. But the thing is that I love the most in anthology is everyone has a story. So I broke off the main campaign, and then I said, let's go into a ship in space. The ship in space was called the Intrepid. And the individuals in that ship were paramilitary. They were strong as hell. Their mission was to take out the evil Vecna. And Vecna was somewhere on Dominulus. They knew where he was. So these people, these strong paramilitary, they knew that Vecna was on that planet. So the mission was, let's take him out. Let's destroy him. And that's what it was. And that was a 3-part story that went from space and onto Dominulus, and then finally a big battle with Vecna. And I love to do stuff like that, and hopefully you can stay with me, join me, stay with me, like, subscribe, because I got a lot more coming. Just be patient. In season 1, unfortunately, I had some audio and video issues, but I have learned thus far, and things are much better now. But let's continue. I talked about the Cult of the Red. I talked about Vecna, the side story. And as the story continued, in season 1, the players, they beat Vecna. but they had different characters. Level 17. I just said, hey, you know, I don't care how many, I don't care what you do. Level 17, make them OP. And they did. I had an arcane archer. I had a dragonborn. I had so many different characters in Dominulus thus far. And the Vecna 3-part arc was great. Check it out. It's on YouTube. It's on Rumble. It's all over. Just check it out and tell me what you think. Let's continue on. After the Vecna, we went back into the main campaign, and I had a lot of connections. I had connections with, it was very symbolic. They did a little bit of dungeon crawling, not so much in Season 1. Season 1 was a milestone game. You know, everyone can do milestone differently, but in milestone, you have checkpoints. And as you go to those checkpoints, you increase in level. And that's what they did. And I personally prefer milestone over, hear me out now, over experience. One's a little bit more structured than the other. Nothing wrong with that. It all depends on how you like doing it. So they went from one point to another, and there were great moments. Awesome moments. They had great battles. They had a great time. There was funny moments, sad moments. And Season 1 had its downfall. The biggest takeaway, I would say, from Season 1 would be that they went back to the ship, the Intrepid, the main characters. Remember, the main characters were two different people. What do I mean by that? The side story had different characters. The main campaign, those characters, somehow they collided with the characters from the Vecna Rising series. And they went on the Intrepid. Then the Dragon Queen was also there. There was a lot of twists and turns. And they ended up doing the aliens where they shot her out of the ship. And I'm not going to give you any spoilers. If you want to watch it, you can. But Season 1 is kind of rough audio in some portions of it. I was, you know, it happens. I was learning at the time, but, you know, now we're at a better place, and we're doing great. But let's continue on. Season 1 had, like I said, had a lot of ups and downs with emotion. These guys were pretty strong. The dragon swords were powerful. One had the abilities of a black dragon, the white dragon, and so forth. I had great NPCs. One NPC, well, her name was Anora. She was a white dragon. And her story, she was human at one point. But a dragon, you know, manipulated her and said, hey, you know, the white dragon doesn't know love. The white dragon is not good. The white dragon said, hey, I want to know all these things. And Anora said, I'm weak. And the white dragon says, I could teach you strength as you could teach me love and understand those things. And Anora and the white dragon made a pact, and they both joined. Hence, you have Anora, who can change into a white dragon, but with her psyche instead of the white dragon. The white dragon gave her the strength that she needed. And she was one of the main NPCs in Season 1. Again, I'm trying not to give any spoilers. I probably gave too much. I do apologize for that. But check it out. There's a lot going in Season 1. And it gets crazy. Anyways, as the story continued, I did another story arc, a side story called The Arena. And this happened to be, it was crazy. It was a 6-part story arc. And it was a gladiator format somewhere in the world of Dominulus, in the West. They had a battle, gladiator style. So I had the player characters create their characters. And it was fantastic. They had a good time. They created crazy characters. And they found out that the gladiators had a deep secret. Something was going on in here. Something far worse than anything can ever be imagined. And let me tell you, they really had problems with it when they found out. I'm not going to give any spoilers on the arena. Check it out. The arena has really good audio. It doesn't break off. It's really well done, and it's a lot of fun. The guys have a great time. So the arena, the 6-part story arc, these guys fought, but it was more than just an arena. You know, they had the Dragon Queen in the stands watching them. So imagine, you know, you created a new character for a story arc, and you have one of the villains, the main villain from season 1, in the story arc, in a branch off story arc. But they confused them. But that confusion turned into, let's find out what's going on, a little bit of a mystery. And they did. They went and found out there was a lot of foreshadowing, and they found out a lot. And I'm not going to get into it. Again, I'm not a spoiler person, but it was a good time. And I wanted, with discussion with the guys, I wanted a little bit more structure. I didn't want as OP as season 1 or as badass as the Vecna characters. I wanted something a little bit more grounded. And they did, and they made some great characters, and they had a lot of fun. When we finally end season 1, when the big bad is destroyed, they found out more. And again, I love mixing technology and fantasy. I love the mix between two. It all depends on what you like. You know, what doesn't matter what I like. It matters what you like. No, I'm just teasing. I love to just mix different things. You know, like I said in the beginning, the anthology is what I like doing, and I want to bring those stories onto the table. And in season 1, like I said, there was a lot of characters and mythical creatures that they fought D&D style, and it was OP. And these side stories, except for the arena, was OP. You know, they fought Vecna in the Vecna Rising 3-part story, and the arena, gladiator style, the blood and guts, and of course, a little bit of mystery, and then finally the big bad in the arena, which I'm not going to go into spoilers. Check it out and let me know what you think, really. So, as we move on to season 2, season 2 is very grounded. Season 2 is a bunch of orphans. And they start out in the Town of the Light. As I mentioned before, in Dominulus in the east, these guys are just a bunch of, you know, young adults trying to become a speck on the bigger world, trying to be something more. And what I wanted, and I told the guys, I wanted something grounded. I wanted, this is a more personal campaign. And one of the guys was like, dungeon crawl. So I said, let's do it. We're going to do dungeon crawl. And they did, because in season 1, there's a mystery. There was a fire in the orphanage, and a lot of the orphans died. So there's a mystery. They want to find out what's going on. And the kids, they went on to the cave. But before they went on to the cave, the big bad in season 2 is an individual. His name is Godard Thane. And then the sub-villains are the pirates. So there was a lot of pirates. I wanted a lot of pirate action, sort of like the Goonies, almost. A lot of that. I I wanted that. I wanted fun, excitement, a little bit of a scariness. I wanted darkness, but I wanted groundedness. I didn't want OP. I didn't want them to pull out a sword, and then when they pull the sword out, the sun rises, the sun shines. You know, I didn't want them to feel, oh, I'm overpowered. I didn't want an OP campaign. I wanted just a bunch of friends trying to figure out what happened to their home. And so far, they're trying to figure out the mystery, and they haven't yet. There's more pieces to the puzzle. They found those pieces at the cave. They were being chased by orcs. They were, on their trail, there was pirates in the cave. Pirates in the entrance of the cave, inside the cave. And for the love of God, I always wanted a bridge from side to side, swaying left and right. I always wanted a scene where they just go across. Nope, can't happen. One of the guys, the rogue, Brandon, played by Brandon, he cut the ropes. So all the pirates, majority of the pirates kind of went to their doom when he did that. It was cool. It was a fun scene, but there goes my dream, right? So the players, they went across, the orphans, they went across the bridge before, or before that, all the pirates went to their doom, and they found a room of traps and stuff, and there was mystery. They realized that, hey, there's something going on here. Why do the pirates they want to go to the cave? They found the map. They found the map in the orphanage. They found the map leading to the cave. Hey, there's a treasure. There's something in that cave that's significant, important. So they went and tried to find out what's going on. In the cave, they met the drows, and didn't start out very well. Of course, in the Underdark, the drows are not good. They're going to take you out. You are from the upper lands. You're from above. They don't care. They're going to kill you. So they went on, and they became really good friends. It was by luck that they did. No, there was one tiefling in the party, and he was that bridge. And it was very shaky, but they befriended each other. And from that point on, the player characters, they started to realize, hey, there's a little bit more than the orphanage. There's more than the Town of the Light. Let's find out what truly is going on. So they traversed inside the cave, the dungeon crawl. They found traps, they found dragons, one dragon, and they found this enlarged turtle. So one of the characters befriended him. So there was emotion. As I said before, season 2 that we're in right now is personal. Emotion, personal. I want it to be epic. Yes, they're heroes. Yes, the beauty of all that. And then the central character for the story is Lila and Gram. Lila is a young cleric, and her protector, a minotaur, Gram. If you follow the story, Gram went through phases. There was a point where he was attacked, he died, and came back from the dead. Not so good of a creature. He came back to his bestial form. He wasn't the Gram that Lila knew. But that changed as things went along. And as we continue, little girl Lila realized that, hey, she could control or manipulate, channel gods. She could channel 5 gods. In the beginning, she was channeling maybe 1 or 2, but then as the story progressed, she grew in power. And so they realized that the pirates were after the gift. They call it the gift. And the drows knew of an old, ancient scroll. And in that scroll, it was written about the gift. So they were curious about it, and they went after the scroll. But in doing so, things happened, and they had to pull back. What do I mean by that? The drows had another faction in that city that was against them. So the player characters, PCs, helped them. They said, okay, we're going to help them. We're going to make that bond. We're going to make that bond close. So we're going to make sure that the queen of the drows in that location was protected, and they did. But in doing so, something was manipulating them. Unseen. They didn't find out until 3 episodes later that Godard Thane was the main villain of the story in season 2. And he was manipulating things. Come to find out later on in the story, and remember I like doing story arcs, we go into a different story arc. The story arc, or a side story, that I called End of the Line. And End of the Line is a bunch of heroes adventuring in the cave. The cave that the main campaign was in, but in another side of the campaign. The other side, of the cave, where it's the unknown area, where it's not traveled. These characters started there, and I told their story. And again, great characters, great story. They had a lot of fun doing it, but it only was 3 episodes. From that point, we go right back into the main campaign. Come to find out that in the main campaign, after the drows, they proceeded. They said, okay, we have a way out of the cave. We know where to go. We know the cave. We know there's entry points. We know there's symbols on the ground. There's symbols on the rock formations. You could touch it and change it. And there's teleportation areas within the cave. The drows would manipulate it and move from the north, south, east, and west portion of the cave. So they knew that. There was a big battle between the drows' enemies, the pirates, and the players. It led to a lot of deaths. Not the players, but the enemy and the drows' enemies. There was this hag that manipulated things, a twilight hag, and she was very powerful. She made a pact with one of the player characters, the ranger. And as things progressed, 2 player characters died. A paladin and an artificer. They both died. And it wasn't by their doing. The hag manipulated things. They all were in a state of paralysis. All of them. All the player characters. When they came out of their sleep, or paralyzation, per se, they realized that only 2 didn't move. So they said, okay, we're going to figure out what's going on. So they went on to figure it out. Unfortunately, there was an individual, and the tiefling I spoke about earlier is played by Timmy Dale, and he was playing dual roles. He was playing a secret character, which was a drow. And he was pissed that 2 of his family members died in the hands of the players, which it was a mistake. It was one of those things where it's like, I didn't mean to kill you, but we had no choice. We had to protect ourselves. But he His name was Severin, and he didn't care. He wanted to do things his way anyways. So he pulled out a sword, and he decapitated the paladin, mauled him, and he killed the artificer, destroying him too. So, 2 player characters died. Enter 2 new characters, a dragonborn and a cleric. They are now at the party, and they discovered an airship with a mysterious elf who was the pilot or the headmaster of this airship. They brought him back to the cave. They said, hey, let's go back to the cave. We want to figure out what's going on. And there's a lot of mystery. Again, I'm trying not to go over every little point. I don't want to give away the high and lows of the story. And what I mean by low is there's a lot of things that happen that are pretty dark, and I don't want to get into them because I don't want to give that away. It's spoiler, you know. I don't want to do that. I'm not a spoiler person. But they went on, and when they found the bodies of their friends, they were pretty pissed off. But what can you do? So now, remember I said Timmy Dale is playing 2 characters, a tiefling and the other character, which is a drow. He leaves and he continues playing his main character, which is now with the party again. And at the end of the line, those characters, the other side of the cave, they found some things that led up to the main plot of Campaign 2. I want you to check out End of the Line. It's a 3-part side story. It's a lot of fun. One of the major NPCs there is Sophia. She has a lot of history, and she's the smart-ass witch in that campaign, or in that little side story. As we go on towards the story, Lila and Grom become friends again, because Grom is no longer that evil minotaur. The players manage to bring him down and to bring him back to what he was. Again, I'm not going to say how. Check it out. Also, too, like and subscribe. That's another thing. You know, support me, because I love writing stories, and I wanna do my best so you guys will continue to watch and so forth. But either way, let's continue. The player characters. I was talking about Lila and Grom, and then Lila has 2 other siblings. Gerald's played by AJ, and then Laros is an NPC. They're triplets. They're part of the orphanage, and before the orphanage burnt down, they were all friends. They played. They went out in the City of the Light. The Town of the Light. They went ahead and they did so much to have fun. They're kids. What are you gonna do? But now they're adventuring. They're trying to figure out what's happening. They realize that the pirates are more than they seemed. The main pirate, the captain, Dranger, he was a little kooky, and he was a little bit more than what he seems as well. So there was a lot of mystery with the pirates, a lot of mystery with the surrounding events. So, and the main thing is, what's the gift? What's the gift? So they realized that the gift, not going to say what, is with them at all times. So that's all I'm going to say there. So as the story progressed, we move on further down the line. And that leaves me to the second part of my side stories. And that was called The End of the Line Returns. That was a deeper part because they returned, but they are in the Town of the Light, where Godard Thane is manipulating the town. Everyone is moving in certain locations or Zodiac symbols on the ground. Everyone is zombie look. They're looking as if they're being controlled, manipulated, of some kind of mind magic. So they realize that Godard Thane is a vampire. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to get into it deeply, but I will tell you that it is one of those things that you're not going to find in a D&D book. You're going to find it in lore. I love vampires, and I will tell you, in my vampire stories are not going to be like, hey, wait a second, holy water is going to work, a cross is going to work. Nope. I know vampires very well, and I tell you, I am not going to use D&D lore with this big bad. So I told the party that out of game. I said, all of you guys have to take this idea and learn and say, you know what? Think out of the box, because you're not going to just take them out by holy water. Oh, sunlight. Nope. Let's get back to the end of the line returns. They are in the Town of the Light, and they're fighting for their lives. They're running from building to building and so forth. And there's another character played by my daughter, Colleen, and she plays a character called Eliza. And Eliza is a stuck-up princess in Jamorna. And as I mentioned in the beginning, Jamorna is in the east, not too far from the Town of the Light. And Jamorna is the kingdom. And that kingdom happens to have a king and a queen, and of course a princess, a stuck-up princess who decides that she does not want to be a princess. She's a rogue. She takes that class, and she's with the party now. And she's kicking ass, taking names. But either way, I connect the end of the line crew with the main party of the campaign, with the big bad. So things happen there. I'm not going to get into exactly what happened, but I'll give you the main points. Lila channels someone very big. That's all I'm going to say. From that point, we go back to the main campaign. It gets deeper. The main campaign now is out of the cave, going back to the Town of the Light, and realizing that the events of the end of the line characters, they're there, sorta. It's underground, because they fought Godard Thane. The events of that battle, you can check it out online. Check it out. It's a good story, guys. So they had a battle, and the characters of the main campaign are trying to figure out what's going on, and they realize that they're in deep shit. And now they said, okay, they need certain items. They need a crystal. They need the Book of the Dead. They need the Deck of Many Things. Interesting. So they go back and they try to investigate their mother, or the headmaster of the orphanage, Leandra. Leandra is kind of kooky, and she has this deck and she's playing with it. She's controlling it, manipulating it by herself, but it's not affecting her. It affects the people that she gives the card to. So now you have all these situations that the party must deal with. Again, trying to figure out things in the order and the events and how they occurred, and then trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So now, let's go to another side story. The one that I'm on now, called Harsh Reality. And in the beginning of this episode, I discussed that Dominulus is an anthology. It is a realm of magic, creatures, D&D style, but it's an anthology. Every portion of the globe has a story. If you're a peasant, you have a story. If you're a blacksmith, you have a story. Everyone has a story. And let me tell you, the main thing in this is that harsh reality. The reality of villains. The players decided, hey, we're going to be villains now. We're going to be the bad guys. And what do? Their mission is to kill the leader of the Order of the Light. The Order of the Light protects, in the west, the town of Golan. It's not as big as Amazura, as I discussed before, but it's enough. And they went back, and they went to the town to destroy, to kill the leader. And I realized the leader happened to be female, a female cleric. Her name? SilLa. They bring her down, they kill her. But she's not the leader. So they thought, because she was the one behind the knights that was protecting the town. They're the bad guys. They went in, they wanted to burn the town, they took the wagon down, there was a baby in the wagon. It disappeared. And now they decided, the harsh reality crew, remember, they're the bad guys, to change direction. Their leader is an orc. They're called the Crimson Riders. So what do? They kill the orc. They kill the orc, the leader, their leader. So when they kill the orc, the group decides, oh, we're heroes now. It doesn't work that way. When you are bad and things happen, you just don't change. I mean, you could try to change, but your past is sneaking up behind you. And that's what's happening now. Because they befriended SilLa, and this is what's happening currently before tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central. They befriended SilLa, and what happened? Oh, we're all friends now? Remember, they're the evil ones. Well, they found out that there was a maze or catacombs underneath the city of Golan. So they decided, hey, let's go, let's check it out. They do. And what they find is a lot of traps, and thanks to the rogue, Jericho, if it's not for his awesome perception and sleight of hand, and he was able to disarm traps. If not, they would have made it 10 feet. They fought a dragon, which hurt him pretty bad. They beat the black dragon. But the black dragon was chained as if something held it captive. It was pissed. And they were in the catacombs, and it was tight, a tight turn, tight corridors, but the dragon was pissed. It broke out of its chain, destroyed the structure around it, acid everywhere. And what happened? They were all hurt. Want to check my levels here? Everything's good? So now we're at the crossroads. What do? Remember, these are all villains. In the side story, which we're still in, episode 3, tomorrow, they're villains. And they're trying to find out what the hell is going on. And they still haven't killed the leader of the Order of the Light. But the Order of the Light has its own problems. Come to find out that Leandra, the caretaker, or one of the headmasters of the orphanage in the town of the light, she's married. Remember, she has 3 children. But the three triplets of the children was not by her husband, Cullum. No, it was by Godard Thane. Godard Thane was human in this portion of the story. With this side story, Leandra had a little something aside with Godard Thane. They fell in love and they had 3 children. 3 children! Cullum, being a good person, decided to stay with his wife, Leandra. But Godard Thane knew he'd done wrong, but he loved her and protected her. But the Order of the Light found out about it. And what they did is they captured Godard and they threw him into the unknown region in Dominulus. In that area, no one knows the creatures, the darkness in that location. And somehow, Godard is back. He arises as a vampire. And that's where we're at in the story. After this 6-part story arc of harsh reality, the reason why I came up with harsh reality is because I wanted these bad individuals. But now they're thinking, well, maybe things are wrong. Are they bad? Only time will tell. What will happen in the 3rd episode tomorrow? And what will happen in the 4th, 5th, and 6th episode? Join us. Stay with me. Playerole. I got a good table. These guys are good role players. They may not be voice actors. I'm not a voice actor. I do my best into the role playing and descriptions of the story. I have one hell of a story. Stay with me. Like, subscribe. You see that bell? Click it. That way you get notifications. Don't forget that, guys. Support me because I'm going to support you in giving you good content. Now, will there be an occasional mistake or two? Absolutely. Because my motto in Playerole is real people, real gamers, man. Remember that. Real people, real gamers. We love the game. And we just love to role play. But we make mistakes. We're not perfect. And that's what makes us a family in Playerole. Thank you for watching the recap. And I'm going to not be as long as I was, but join me for DM Talk coming up next. I'll see you guys.